Thousands of people go missing in the U.S. every year. Not all of them are found. This is Nightvoice. The morning Ethan Miller disappeared was painfully ordinary. Sunlight slipped through the thin motel curtains in Dry Creek, Nevada, painting the walls in pale gold. Outside, a pickup truck started and drove away. Somewhere nearby, a door slammed. Life moved forward without noticing him. Ethan showered, pulled on a faded t-shirt, and checked his phone. One bar of signal, enough to send a message. Going hiking for a few hours, back tonight. He left the motel room exactly as it was, bed unmade, charger plugged into the wall, half a bottle of water on the nightstand. No note, no plan B. The trailhead was quiet, no warning signs, no dramatic sense of danger, just dirt, stone, and the open desert stretching farther than the eye could measure. He stepped onto the trail at 9:32 a.m. That was the last moment of certainty he would have for days. The desert doesn't announce when you've made a mistake. There's no line, no sound, no sudden realization. The path simply becomes less clear. Footprints scatter, stones shift. What once looked intentional begins to feel accidental. Ethan noticed it around noon. The markers were gone. The ground ahead looked the same as the ground behind him. He told himself it was fine, trails blur sometimes. He kept walking, trusting instinct instead of evidence. That decision followed him like a shadow. When he finally stopped and turned around, the desert refused to give anything back. No familiar shapes, no remembered turns. Even the sky felt indifferent, a pale, empty dome. His phone had no signal. The screen dimmed faster than it should have. For the first time, a thought crossed his mind that felt heavy and unwelcome. I might not know how to get out of this. The first lie people tell themselves when they're lost is that panic is still optional. Ethan believed he could fix it by walking faster. The sun climbed higher, heat pressed against his skin, crawling under his clothes, turning every breath thick. Sweat soaked his back, then stopped entirely. He didn't notice, not yet. He climbed a ridge to get a better view. From the top, the land revealed its cruelty. Miles of rock, dry washes, and shallow canyons that all looked exactly the same. No roads, no buildings, no movement. He sat down hard. That was when fear stopped whispering and started speaking clearly. Night fell without ceremony. The temperature dropped fast, as if the heat had been a temporary illusion. Ethan wrapped himself in his jacket and wedged his body between two rocks to block the wind. The darkness was complete. No city glow, no headlights, just stars so sharp they felt close enough to touch and utterly useless. He tried to sleep. Every sound snapped him awake. His thoughts spiraled: family, unfinished conversations, things left behind in a motel room that now felt impossibly distant. At some point, he realized he was whispering to himself. That scared him more than the cold. By the second day, thirst became a presence. It spoke in suggestions: sip less, walk slower, sit down. It tightened his throat and coated his tongue until swallowing felt pointless. Ethan followed a dry riverbed, hoping logic would lead him somewhere human. The ground was cracked, ancient, hostile. The sun reflected off pale stone, burning his eyes. He found shade beneath a rock overhang and stayed there for hours, barely moving. Time stopped meaning anything. When he drank the last of his water, he stared at the empty bottle longer than necessary, as if it might refill itself out of pity. It didn't. On the third and fourth days, the desert began to give him things that weren't real. He heard voices, not words, just the shape of conversation. He smelled food. Once, he was certain he saw a figure standing on a ridge, watching him. He called out. No answer. His thoughts slowed, then skipped. Simple decisions felt enormous. Walking 10 steps required negotiation with his own body. He started leaving small markers, stones stacked in uneven piles, afraid that if he didn't, he would walk in circles forever. Later, he walked past one of them. Helicopters passed overhead twice. Ethan heard them both times. He screamed until his throat burned. He waved his jacket, He stumbled into open ground, convinced this was the moment it would end. The helicopters didn't change direction. They faded into the distance, leaving behind a silence that felt intentional, almost cruel. That was the moment hope cracked. Not vanished, just fractured into something fragile and dangerous. On the fifth day, Ethan fell. Not far, not dramatically, just enough to slam his knee into stone and knock the air from his lungs. Pain radiated upward, sharp and immediate. He lay there staring at the sky, unable to stand. A thought came to him then, calm, reasonable, terrifying. If I don't get up, this will be how it ends. He rested for a long time. Then he stood, not because he felt strong, but because the alternative felt final. Late that afternoon, he found it. A rusted fence post, barely visible, almost swallowed by the land. Ethan touched it to make sure it was real. Following the fence was slow and painful, but it gave him something he hadn't had in days: direction with meaning. The fence led to a dirt road. The road led to tire tracks. The tracks led to a small, forgotten utility building. He collapsed beside it. He doesn't remember losing consciousness. Ethan was found on the seventh day. A maintenance worker spotted him from the road and thought he was already dead. He wasn't, but he was close enough that the difference felt thin. In the hospital, Ethan survived, but something stayed behind in the desert, or maybe something came back with him. He struggled with silence, with heat, with open spaces. He woke from dreams where the ground stretched forever and no one heard him scream. When people asked what the worst part was, he never mentioned thirst or fear. He said this instead: at some point, the desert stopped trying to kill me. It just waited.